all of our friends in B Squad Hot Rod land or video land or whatever you want to call it now. We have our guest, Mr. Jack Carr, returning to us, who he just wrote a new book, and we're here to help him promote and maybe talk a little bit about that, and maybe get off the book subject a little bit and talk about something else car related, because I'm sure he's just love talking about words all the time.
Yeah, no, let's do it. Let's do it.
B Squad Hot Rod, episode 316.
B Squad is, at its core, a roundtable discussion of the four of us who are admittedly rank amateurs in the car world, trying to figure our way into hot rodding.
4 states,
3 time zones,
2 sets of brothers.
once a week of the meat and bolts of hot rods.
For a B Squad Hot Rod, this is Lefty.
This is Train.
This is Hollywood. And this is Woodchuck. Because A Squad has a TV show.
Legal disclaimer. If you try anything we talk about, that's your fault, not ours.
Just back from speaking of cars, so I was in Budapest filming the show for about 2 weeks. It's this prequel origin story to The Terminalist, which came out in 2022 on Amazon Prime Video. And so this is a prequel, so it predates that. It explores the character Ben Edwards, who's played by Taylor Kitsch, and we're filming out in Budapest right now. So I was there for a couple weeks, and oh my goodness, I was there in '94 also before I went in the military, just backpacking around, and like it is incredible. Like outside my hotel every day, 2 Bentleys, 2 Lamborghinis, 2 Ferraris, Porsches everywhere. It is insane. Every now and again, a muscle car from somebody's collection, and they all park them in front of this in front of the hotel that I was staying at, so they can go to dinner or whatever in that area. But man, there's a lot of money in Budapest right now. I think it's a lot of Russian money, a lot of Ukrainian money, a lot of Chinese money buying up portions of that stuff, I think. And it's just a really interesting place. But the cars certainly stood out. My little guy, my 13-year-old, is all into cars. He's into, of course, Lamborghinis and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Grand Theft Auto. So I'm taking pictures of all these like murdered out Ferraris and stuff that are parked in front of this place and sending them to him. And he got a kick out of that.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. That reminds me from a scene from your last book. A little bit of spoiler alert, but there's a Ferrari chase scene in it. And I thought that was masterfully done, because you picked 2 Ferraris and then they had very different performance characteristics. And having driven one of those, I thought that was very well done. So want to give you kudos on that end.
Appreciate that. Of course, a little nod to Magnum with the one car. And I've never driven one. I need to 308 GT, need to get in one at some point. And maybe for a few years ago, you could find them and they weren't that expensive, relatively speaking, of course, if one, has some disposable income available.
Right.
Everything's relative, of course. But I mean, not that bad a few years ago. I don't know what they are now. I don't know if like things kind of turned, kind of like the Aston Martin, the one from the Living Daylights. For a while, the one looked like more like an American muscle car. Like that one you could find used, relatively inexpensive, until, of course, they put it in the latest one, which as soon as I saw that, I was like, son of a, I should have made that move earlier. Dang it. But what can you do?
They're always there when you're not looking. And then when you start looking, they're never around, right?
I know. That's how it goes. It's crazy.
So my uncle, he was a dentist, so he had a little bit of that disposable income. He bought a 308, and he was saying, you can get them all day long, 50 grand, and it looks like Google's telling me like 80 grand now. So yeah, they're going up.
And then you have to figure out if you want to drive it more than a few miles, what you're going to have to put back in, I guess.
Exactly.
Yes.
More
maintenance is a thing on that. That kind of
the car is basically 40 years old now.
Yeah. Well, every 5 years, it's like required maintenance, even if you don't drive it. And
over 40, right?
Is it was it?
Yeah.
Is it over 40? Is it over
I don't know when the first one came out, but certainly by 78, that model was there. And so, yeah, geez, it's getting up there.
It is.
somebody else in this conversation.
Oh, we're not.
I think we're all getting there, sir. We're not too far behind you.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, I'd love to add one of those to the collection at some point. But now you need a place to put them. That's the hard part. Sometimes it's not just the being able to, but then it's the, oh, where do I put this thing?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
by the elements. So
That's yeah. We certainly talked last time about garages and gun safes. They fill themselves.
they do. Those are like rabbits.
Okay.
So yeah, the Land Cruisers are still they're still multiplying like rabbits out there.
Okay. Yep. Last year you had 4 of them, and we're looking at maybe 2 more. Did you only get 2 more?
So I think since we last talked, I'd have 1 more. And yeah, so at the I don't think I had a 97 collector's edition 80 series.
That's the one you mentioned.
Yeah, so I have that was added. That's outside right now. Actually, it's in the garage. But 40th anniversary edition when we talked, I think, and now collector's edition, which I think they made because they sold through the 80th, or sorry, the 40th anniversary edition faster than they expected, and they said, "What do we do now? We said this was limited edition. Let's do a collector's edition."
Oh, collectors.
There you go. Easy out.
So this leads into, you have a Land Cruiser at the museum in Salt Lake, the Land Cruiser Museum in Salt Lake. What prompted you to put one over there?
So it's the one from the show that Chris Pratt drove in the terminal list. It looks pretty much like the one that I drove in the SEAL team. So I put them, of course, a fan. So I put it into my own book. Had my protagonist drives a 1988 FJ62 Land Cruiser. So for the show, Chris Pratt drove it. He backs into me. So I have a cameo there. So he backs into me, crashes, and he gets out of the car. We have a little gunfight. He shoots me. They had a squib in the headrest, the vehicle that I'm in. So when he shoots me in the head, I throw my head to the side, and the squib goes and throws blood up all over the ceiling, the roof of the car.
That's awesome.
And so it's really cool to see how they filmed that stuff in Hollywood. That was a lot of fun. But at the end of the show, so we had 3 Land Cruisers. 2 looked exactly the same, and then one wasn't lifted, didn't have the stuff on it, but had a cage over it, so it can have the cameras mounted as he's driving. So 3 Land Cruisers, and so I was like, "Hey, what are we doing with those after this?" And I ended up with one of them. Obviously, not the one with the cage, but. They're more for looks. They're really just in Hollywood. It was just supposed to look good on screen. So to actually drive it, it would need a lot of work. So
I get you.
Eventually I'm going to send it somewhere and keep the look of it, keep the whole outside. Not going to touch up the paint, not do anything like that. But I'm going to get it drivable. I actually drove it when they dropped it off. They dropped it off on a trailer. It started right up. And I zipped off on it, and we live up on the kind of mountains, and there's some twists and turns. And I got to this first turn, put on the brakes. Essentially, very little happened.
Oh no!
So I pump, and it was dicey. So I almost went off this cliff. So I kind of took it easy back to the house, turned around, and I called Pratt and was like, "Hey, the Land Cruiser got delivered," and he's like, "Oh man, that's awesome. Hey, one of those ones was missing, didn't have very good brakes, so be careful." And I was like, "Okay, that's the one that I got." So it needs brakes, it needs engine, it needs everything, but I want to keep the outside looking the same. So while I'm waiting to do that, it is in the Land Cruiser Museum in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I need to go visit it down there. Actually, we're going to do a little display and put some stuff, pictures from the show and that sort of thing down there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's its home for the foreseeable future.
Future until they decide they're bored of it or you want it back, huh?
That's it. So it's on loan.
Very nice. We're looking at starting our B Squad Bonsai run. So kind of a cruise down to SEMA. SEMA happens in November, and it's a fundraiser for St. Jude's Children's Cancer.
Oh, so awesome.
SEMA a couple of years ago, I got cancer, so we thought that would be a very cool deal.
Oh, wow. Oh, gee. Well, man, I'm glad you apparently pulled through. So
yes, I got very lucky. It was kind of hanging off the end of my kidney, and they kind of snipped it off, and now we're just monitoring. So
wow.
I hate to use lucky and cancer in the same sentence, but I feel very, very fortunate.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad they got it in time. That's St. Jude's is amazing. Yeah, incredible organization.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't go there, but I figured what better cause to do? Because
Those kids and yeah, that's amazing.
so yeah, we're gonna try to start from that and maybe get a chance to peek at your Land Cruiser while I'm there. And
Let's do it. Yeah, I need to go. Maybe we'll coordinate. I'll come down and say hi. 'Cause I need to get down there as well. So
okay,
it's not far away. I mean, it's a football throw down the hill here, but it's just there's been a lot going on, so I haven't been able to get down to see it yet.
yeah, and I'll just keep you updated.
That'd be great. It'd be awesome to see you guys.
Okay, so let's get to why you're here. This book, I want to call you Nostradamus a little bit because you happened with submarines going on and AI. Was it just like came to you in a dream, or was this just like this is where the progression of these books just naturally took you?
Progression, progression naturally took me. I introduced a character 2 books ago in a book called In the Blood, where I have this quantum computer named Alice that gets introduced. And for that book, I knew nothing about quantum computing or artificial intelligence or anything. I had no touch points with that sort of thing in the military. So I went deep down the rabbit hole doing research and created this character that people really liked. But also, I would be shocked that if she didn't exist, pretty much exactly the way that I describe in the book. I talked to so many people, and when you talk to people in that space, in military and intelligence circles, they're very tight-lipped about AI and quantum computing, understandably, but they give you a little hint of something. And if you talk to enough people, like a journalist might, putting together a story, then you can kind of put together this mosaic and come up with what I think is probably very, very close to what actually exists. So for the next book, I didn't want to rely on this character because she has all sorts of, like, I mean, for lack of a better term, powers, and is hooked into the Internet of Things. So I didn't want it to turn into like Michael Knight in the 80s calling the kit car, you know.
Oh, yeah, I get
there. He dives in the window and nothing. So I didn't want to have her become a crutch for my character and for the story. So I sidelined her in the next book. So in the last one called Only the Dead. But when you introduce a character like that to a series, to a universe, you can't sideline them forever. So she's back in this book, and very timely, because when I wrote that first one, the In the Blood book with her, ChatGPT wasn't yet part of the lexicon. AI wasn't really at the forefront of conversations when we're talking about technologies and emerging technologies and the kind of rapid growth of technology and its infusion into our lives. So that came out before that, which was kind of interesting. And then ChatGPT thing came into the news, and then of course we're talking about AI quite a bit. Even with the Hollywood writer strike, that was AI was a big part of why they were striking. So she's introduced, and now she's back. And of course now AI is everyone understands kind of where we're going with AI, and understands that it's probably here to stay in one way, shape, or form. And we're going to need to figure out how to manage it. But when you have a tool like that, that's what it is. It's a tool. It can be used for good, can be used for evil. And certainly the military is looking at that tool and figuring out how to use it, how to maximize its effectiveness in the defense space. So if you have an enemy that has a similar technology or is working on similar technologies, and you're talking about decision making, whether it's the tactical level, operational level, or strategic level, typically what you want to do is get inside the enemy's decision-making process to disrupt it and make your decisions faster than the enemy. And if they have a quantum computer that is working at these fast speeds, and they've turned over some platforms to be autonomously controlled, well, then they're going to have made these decisions, and there'll be missiles landing on the United States before our generals are even out of bed. So it's here, and certainly the defense establishment is looking at it. And as I did my research, I found out that autonomous control, the ability to autonomously control, whether it's drones and whether it's their airborne or so unmanned aerial vehicles, or they're like submarines or whatever it is, that's being built into all of these future weapon systems, the ability to be autonomously controlled. So this book is really about loyalty and questions about loyalty, but through the prism of the geopolitics and that geopolitical relationship between the United States, China, Taiwan, with these autonomously controlled platforms in play. And those things all collide in the pages of Red Sky Mourning. How's that for?
That's awesome. I
almost
know.
like you've said that before.
Never really said it like that before, I don't think, but similar.
Similar.
But
So-
it's not something that's prepared, that's for sure.
No, it's just funny. I was reading your synopsis on your website for the book, and I'm like, wow, okay, AI, yeah, I could see that. But then the submarine stuff hit just when we just got those,
Right.
yesterday, the day before, those Russian
Yeah.
subs over in Cuba. I'm like,
Wow.
wow, this is too weird.
Yeah. This is actually the 40th anniversary of, that's why the submarines are in there, of the publication of The Hunt for Red October by Tom Clancy. So that's 40 years old. So a little younger than the Ferrari we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Came out. So Hunt for Red October came out in 1984. So I wanted to do a little nod to Tom Clancy, and that's the prologue to this book that is submarine focused. And that's something that I didn't have touch points with in the military. So I had to go deep down the rabbit hole researching that, and hopefully if a person who spent time on a submarine reads it, they'll at least know that I put in the time, energy, and effort to get it close anyway.
Well, that's good.
So at your behest, went back and read, actually listened to David Morrell and Rambo, and your last book obviously gave some nods there, and I love the movie Hunt for Red October. I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to this one too. And so as I started reading the advanced copy, I was like, oh, okay, I need to stop reading because there's I'm really going to want to talk about this, and we definitely don't want to have any spoilers going on. So
all right, spoiler free.
Yep,
Spoiler free.
Yep, I'll just piggyback on what you said, and thought it was beautifully done. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the cars in this one. So I put, but I got a Rolls Royce in here. With the Phantom 2, I think.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I put that's in there, but this one is more plane centric. I got a plane in here. It's a Lake Buccaneer that I read a book that had that in there in 1985. And so that's I think that was the summer between my sixth and seventh grade, maybe. Yeah. And so I told myself back then that one day I would incorporate that plane into a novel that I wrote. And so this was that one. And I even put it on the cover. It's right there right here. And it's just a unique looking plane. Oop, let's see if I can get that out of the light. There it is, right there. So
Okay.
Right on the edge.
Like a Land Cruiser community, or it's like a kind of a niche community, but for aircraft. So it's an amphibious plane, and it was very popular in the 70s, and then probably peaked in the mid 80s. I'd say certainly, I think it peaked by the late 80s. But there are people out there that absolutely love this plane, so I wanted to make sure that I got it right for them. And then I have a bunch of other aircraft in here as well that get used throughout the novel. So there's but more aircraft in this one than cars, I think.
Sometimes you just got to do that. Like, you got to switch things up. And I mean, we're car guys. That's cool. But if Lefty, my brother, was here, he'd be so geeking out on this plane stuff because he and my dad are both pilots.
Oh, nice.
They geek out hard on airplanes.
Nice. Yeah.
So
I went all in on the especially this first plane here. It's in chapter 1. And I feel like I could possibly, I know nothing, like I said, I know very little about planes other than the research I did for this book. And I feel like I could almost get in this and take off. Don't think I could like crash immediately, but I think I could get all the research I did. I think I could get it moving in the right direction.
Hey, and that works. And that's what's cool about, I think, your books is you put in the research on those details. Like, you'll go in, you probably wouldn't found, if not was able to get in one at the very least, but good pictures of the inside, the control panels and the gauges and all that stuff. And you do that with as much as you can on all of your books, which is, I find, fascinating.
I do. And this one, I really wanted to get out to Florida. So I started talking to a guy on Instagram who has one of these planes, and his Instagram, I talk about him in the acknowledgments, and his dad actually has a seaplane base in Florida and is very closely connected to the company that makes these planes, or that made them. Now they make parts for them, but they don't make the full plane anymore. But so that was great being able to talk to him, send him that chapter, and say, hey, if someone like you was to read this, is this close? And he gave me a few pointers there. So I love doing stuff like that, and I wish I could have gotten out there. Things were just too crazy with filming the show, writing the show, all these other nonfiction. I have a nonfiction book that comes out out on the 1983 Marine Beirut barracks bombing that comes out in September. So there was just too much going on to get out there and actually get in the plane. But I wish I could have done that. And one day I'll fly.
One day, I'm sure. But I mean, at least you did. Like, here, okay, send me a picture of the cockpit. But I know where the stuff is.
Did that full on, yeah, exactly. Did that full on thing. And I'm grabbing the thing here because let's see, I put that. I just want to make sure I put the right. When I said that vehicle, I put in here. I put the one in that's that comes with a. I didn't know this until I did the research for it, but there is an umbrella in the door of these cars, and I want to get the right.
Oh, the Bentleys.
Yeah. So is it the Bentley I put in here? Is it Bentley or the Rolls Royce? I know I went back and forth.
I think
on a few.
Several people. I know modern day Bentleys. Some of the modern day Bentleys will do them.
Okay. So
but I don't know. Some of the older cars might have done them too. It's been a while.
Yeah, but it was pretty cool looking at all that stuff. I'm just trying to. It was a little while since I did that. Yeah. No, the Rolls Royce Phantom Extended Series 2. That's
there you go. Yeah. Okay. The newer one. The
two-tone metallic green and black Rolls Royce Phantom Extended Series 2. So I have him check for the umbrella and
that's awesome.
Everybody checks. But it also has this thing that it was cool looking at. It has a like a refrigerator in it for champagne, and so you open that center console and between the back seat there, the armrest, and there's like an ice box in there with champagne and 2 glasses, which is kind of cool as well. So there's some James Bond vibes in this one because it's my 007th book. So I wanted to do some nods.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
As well. So those are woven in throughout.
Yep. So you had mentioned that there's a usually a one-word theme for each of your books or a very short theme. Doing the homework, I had not caught what it is for this book. Are you willing to share that?
Absolutely. So this was about loyalty and questions of loyalty, because I think that there are a lot of people who served in Iraq or Afghanistan or have a touch point with someone who served there and watched that withdrawal from Afghanistan and think, wow, these senior level leaders, that's the best that they could do. They had 20 years to prepare for that withdrawal, and that's the best they could do. And no one is held accountable at senior level leaders. And that's something that is even more and more is prevalent today, but it really started after World War II, really after the reorganization of our defense and intelligence services in 1947, when the Department of Defense changes to the Department of War changes to the Department of Defense. It had another name in there in the interim years between 1945 and 47, but in 47, it is definitely not the Department of War anymore. And for some reason, we lose accountability because during World War II and up to World War II, admirals and generals were fired because they couldn't measure up. They couldn't do the job. And after 1947, they fail upwards and end up moving on to boards of defense companies. So it's a very interesting thing that changes in 1947 for some reason. We see it today. We see a lack of accountability at those senior level leadership positions, whereas at the tactical level position, you're definitely going to be held accountable if you mess something up. Somebody said, I think it was in 2005, 6, 7 timeframe in there. I think Lieutenant Colonel Paul Yingling, I think his name was, and he said that a private who loses a rifle gets in more trouble than a general who loses a war. And that might not be exact, but that's the general idea. And so I thought questions of loyalty. If you served this country, you went downrange, you did your job, and then you saw these senior level leaders make strategic level blunders time and time again with no accountability. Where does that loyalty lie, especially in a country so divided? So it was just something I wanted to explore through the medium of popular fiction.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good deal. I'm excited to continue reading now. That
was depressing, though, wasn't it? That was really depressing.
It's like, wow, like,
yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's a great. Yeah. It's absolutely spot on. But I'm like, wow, okay.
Of course, there's a lot of gunfight. There's some tomahawk work.
Thank you.
All that. There's all the fun as well.
We have a couple of local touch points with the disaster that was the pullout here, but. Yeah. Again, want to be respectful of your time. We're kind of coming up on that mark. Want to ask you a couple of quick quick fire questions. We call it the crazy quarter mile. This was requested by a couple of our listeners because we didn't do it last time. You're so much fun to talk to. We just blew right by it. It's usually used as a kind of a soft intro.
open. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you're so good at this that certainly wasn't needed. And
I didn't need any warm up.
yeah, didn't need any warm up. You coming in hot. So
whiskey that I had for in preparation for this interview.
Oh, there you go. Excellent. First question: manual or automatic?
Oh, manual. I mean,
I knew we could be friends.
it's I was talking to my son about this yesterday because I put him in the Land Cruiser out here. He's just 13, and just let him driving around the yard a bit. And we're talking about that exact same thing. And so I said that he's probably going to be getting a manual at some point. He's certainly going to learn how to drive one, of course. But yeah, and I want to. This is a rapid fire, so I can't really.
These aren't necessarily.
Sir, I'm not going to cut you off. You go right ahead.
But yeah, so FJ60, I'd love to get one of those, of course. I don't have one of those in the collection just yet. And man, I got a 1968 912, Porsche. So not a 911, but a 912. So it still has that little putt, engine in it. And I'd love to grab one of those as well. But I think did Porsche make one or two this year? Manual, didn't they? What's the one? They made one. I know they at least made one, but they may have done two.
I think I don't know if the Caymans that they made this year were manual, but I know there's always a 911. That's always
there's one 911 for sure that did it, but it's one of those collector's edition ones.
Probably, or maybe their GT3R. I don't know if the GT3 RS is a manual or not.
I'm not sure, but it wasn't that one. There's another one that's it's a collector's edition. You can do some badging on it for I think the year. But anyway, it's manual.
Manual. Okay, manual. No, so. Favorite color on a car?
Ooh, on a car. Something interesting that I learned about cars. So in the book, I put the first book, Terminal List. I had the Land Cruiser white, even though mine wasn't white. Mine was that champagne color, whatever they call it. And that's the color that it was in the show too. Mm-hmm. But the reason it wasn't white is because think about it. Other than a couple exceptions, one major one being Miami Vice, and that was very intentional that they had a white Ferrari. You can't think of too many vehicles that are white in TV shows or films.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. Probably don't film well, do they?
Exactly.
Okay.
I didn't know that. So unless it's an intentional, color palette type of a thing, like it was for Miami Vice, they don't typically put the white ones in there. So for me, it depends on the vehicle. Totally depends on the vehicle for a color. Like Ferrari, I think if you only have one, I think it's got to be red.
It's got to be red.
Yeah. But if you get two, you can get a red one and a black one, So it's always good to have two. Two is one is none. That's a little adage from the SEAL teams. I think like that Porsche, that 1968 912, I think British Racing Green in that one it looks fantastic.
That would be nice.
So I think it all depends on the vehicle. There's not just one that I think looks good across the board. It all depends on the vehicle.
All right. We'll do okay. This will be our last one because I know we're coming up close to time. Keep it as long or short as you like. What's your favorite memory involving a car?
Ooh, let's see. Favorite PG memory involving
PG.
You would be surprised how many times we hear that.
I believe it. Yeah, I mean, of course, right?
Everyone goes there. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But now I'm distracted, so I can't even think of a favorite one.
It's all good.
Yeah, I don't know if a favorite one. I'll think of it as soon as we're off. But that's a great question because now my mind's elsewhere.
The GT3 does come with the manual, the 6-speed.
It does? Okay, yeah. Nice. So I think those are the two. Someone will correct us or correct me in comments, but I believe those are the two this year anyway. Harder and harder to do. But geez, I'm trying to think of something different. It might be in Iraq. It might be driving the G-Wagon in Iraq, up armored with nods at night, heading towards a target, working for a civic unit that I was working with back in the day. It was just kind of cool to not be. I was a military guy attached to a sort of this covert action program thing that heavily influences my novels. And I don't think I've ever talked about that before. But getting in, driving one, and then also, so I drove it, and then I also was in the back running tactical comms. And when you have body armor on in a G-Wagon, and all your gear on,
there's not a whole lot of room.
Not much room when you're driving or in the backseat behind the driver with your radios, because it's not just your radio; it's like this big green radio also in order to make some longer distance comms. So that might be it because it was so unique.
That is very unique.
Let's go with that. Go with that.
That's a good one.
I would
like
not have guessed a G-Wagon just from kind of reading your novels is kind of a bad guy car. So that was a surprise. Yeah,
I'd call it a bad guy car.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
I'd call it a bad guy car.
Yeah. No, maybe that's why. I think we had two of them in that. Anyway, it was just kind of an interesting car to be driving around Baghdad back in the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. As we're coming to a close here, where can everybody find you and buy the book and see all things Jack Carr and Terminal List?
Yeah, so officialjackcarr.com, that is the website. I am at Jack Carr USA on the social channels, but website has blog, and you can find out about the TV shows and sign up for the newsletter there, and there's some merch and all that stuff. So that's probably the central hub. And I have a podcast called Danger Close, and juggling all sorts of things, but I'd say officialjackcarr.com is the central hub. So latest book, Red Sky Mourning, is out Tuesday the 18th, and I'll be on book tour, and love book tour because I get to look people in the eye, shake their hands, and thank them for because without them I wouldn't be able to do what I love doing, which is writing. So it's a great time. I absolutely love book tour.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on with us. Happy Flag Day, sir.
Happy Flag Day to you, and hopefully I'll see you guys in person before too long.
That'd be
absolutely
awesome.
We'll see if we can set that up.
That'd be great. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care. Bye.
If you want to help us out, subscribe and review us on your podcast app of choice.
Come find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter at B Squad Hot Rod. Also, emails go to hosts@bsquadhotrod.com.
That was a heck of an episode. I want to thank Jack Carr for coming on and spending some time with us. He's got an extraordinarily busy schedule, so that was awesome. It's great to hear about the vehicles in Red Sky Mourning. Again, that book comes out Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. I know I've got it on pre-order, and if you're lucky enough, you can find that special edition at small bookstores. I want to thank David Brown for helping us set this interview up. We appreciate that, sir. And I am looking forward to diving into this book and seeing not only the vehicles, but following the next chapter in James Reese's adventure. We will see you Hot Rod Heroes on the next episode.